Okay, so if we were to consider how many more people are going to watch my videos, um, I shouldn't even bother making these videos. Because when I look at the numbers of people who apparently watch my videos, it's like 1 to 3 people. So if you're watching this, you're 1 to 3 people out of 8 billion. And then I look at other people's statistics who are basically talking about similar things to me, and like, I don't know, 130,000 people are seeing them. So what's going on? Why is it that other people can talk about similar things to me, but my numbers aren't as high? Uh, it's because it's never going to be real. Whatever we're living in this world, it's fake. It's all fake, phony baloney. And who is running it? It's run by you. You run this. And how do you run it? It's mostly because your consciousness is creating without you knowing about it. How does that happen? It's just because you're not conscious of what you're doing. There's parts of you that are creating your reality, and you're not educated as to how it happens. So it just is a normal thing for you to see the things you see every day, not realizing that you yourself or an aspect of you is actually creating your reality. What does that mean? Well, all there is here is consciousness. That's all there is. It's consciousness. Physical reality, this door, you say, well, it's made of, wood. No, it is made of something in consciousness. Physicality, you go to quantum physics and there is nothing there. That's what the quantum physicists all say. It's nothing. There's nothing there. So it's just consciousness. Is consciousness something? Well, it's a word that we use to describe as a placeholder for the reality we experience. But as far as, creating your own reality, well, how does that work? Well, for most people, like I said, it's unconscious. They don't realize they're creating their reality. And it goes on autopilot. How did it learn how to do what it did? It learned how to do creation. No one can say. But that's where we are. And everyone is creating their own realities because they are some kind of creator being. How do you consciously create what you want? Well, some people say it's vibrational, some people say it's just affirmation. The truth is probably a lot more difficult because there's so many of us here. And if it's field related, as if there's an aura field around us that does the creating, then our aura fields interact with other people's aura fields. And does it have to be, well, what are you going to believe? If there's certain things that I want to create that you don't believe are possible, are you going to dampen my ability to create? In your reality, yes. In my reality, yes. So it's a collective reality. And if there's a lot of people here that don't believe that we can do things because you think it's fiction, science fiction, you tend to dampen other people's belief that they can do these things. Where do we go from here? How do we learn to stop limiting our ability to create? Well, waking up is a bit of a process because even if you're 1 to 3 people that hear my lecture, um, you might take it in and think, well, I'm too busy. I got to go take out the garbage and get my hair cut. I'm not going to consider this. So, even when I go back and look at my old postings from, a year ago, I don't always remember all the details of things that I post. A lot of times I don't even remember I posted things. So, that's the way that conscious memory is. It's very here and now, and the things that you did in the past, unless you go back and look, It's not part of, active consciousness. So it's like a whole pile of your consciousness, what we call memory. You have to actually access the memory in order to bring it up into your conscious memory again. So otherwise, it's running along unconsciously doing, what are the memories doing? They're just sitting there, or are they doing something else? Are the memories you had still creating things in your reality today? Some people say that your core beliefs have to be re-engineered in order for you to heal, in order for you to change, because your core beliefs were taught to you perhaps when you were just a child. And, what did you have? You had the school systems, your parents, your friends, and the television and radio, newspaper. Well, maybe you couldn't even read when you were really young, so things you heard on the news and watched as visuals. So if the news was faked, but you came to believe that that's the way your world is, then wouldn't you tend to continue to create the world as it was presented to you when you were a child through television and all these things? You know, if all of history was made in a Hollywood basement, and you think the Hollywood presentation of reality is what you find is real, I'm going to bet that you are recreating everything based upon what you learned from television and the movies. Whatever they presented to you, you were immersed in lies. And even to this day, you can just look to see what's created with CGI, computer generated animation. Did they have it back in those days? They don't tell you in those days. They said they used like green screen and other trick photography. But what's to say that they didn't have CGI in those days and they just lied to you? It was just hidden technology, and only a small percentage of people had access to it, and it was national security, and they wouldn't let you know. How much stuff is national security? Why don't they tell the people all the truth? Why is it national security? It's to keep you stupid. It's to keep you stupid, dumbed down, and in disbelief. And it's to keep the ones that are in power in power. These things are known as frequency fences, because the frequency that you're putting out is being fenced off by people who are dampening your ability to see what you want to create. They're dampening it because they're putting a lot of other dumb people around you into your synthetic hologram that we live in, that are dumbing down what can be created. It's very sophisticated how they keep you entrapped in the matrix. What good is my lecture? Don't worry what you see, because as time goes on, your strength of creation could increase exponentially. Basically, by you ignoring what other people tell you and continuing to pursue what you want and not what they want. Is it going to be stronger if you have a group goal? I think so. And if your group goal is the betterment of all, then, who's going to stand in your way? Only really stupid people that think that, betterment for all is somehow going to do them damage, the ones who are running everything right now. The Illuminati, we call them, deep state and cabal. So, all for one and all for all and one for all, just like the Three Musketeers. I'm Harry Weaver, and keep tuning in, because you're the one person that watches me. Okay, so I was talking in my earlier lecture about the scientist who invented PCR, polymerase chain reaction, in 1985, which is used for HIV viral load tests. The scientist's name is Kary Mullis. He's a PhD, and this is his book here, Dancing Naked in the Mind Field. It's said that Dr. Mullis was kind of a renegade scientist, and from time to time he dabbled in LSD to get ideas, and I think maybe that's where he got some of these ideas. But if you look into what he says, he's um, not really on board with the science as presented for HIV/AIDS. And well, I haven't reviewed his stuff recently, but that's all I remember is that he was, I don't know if you'd call him a denialist, but he definitely had his misgivings about using his technology for what it's used for. So, what do I think's going on with it? I think there is a huge, big pharma net cast over people of planet Earth that is designed to trick you into believing you've got all kinds of diseases that they have got pills for. So it is, well, you think of the vast number of billions of dollars that they all pull in every year, they have certainly got the money to develop an incredible net. And once they throw a bit of marketing it into it, they can get the governments on board, so they get government money, and then they convince the doctors and the nurses that these things are real. And I mean, how many doctors have you seen that actually look through a microscope at anything at all? They don't, do they? No, they don't. They order lab reports from somebody else, and they never do any research on their own. Um, so who runs the labs? Well, nobody knows. They're, lab techs. And when they do the tests, what do they do? Well, they're prepackaged tests made by Big Pharma. And, they take this test tube and they add this reagent. And if it's this color, then the test is positive or negative. There used to be some specialized lab techs who would look through microscopes if they were looking at cells, looking for things like cancer or white blood cell counts for leukemia. Do they still do this? I don't know. Did they just develop technology that does all these cell counts? I mean, that's what they were working on, automating all these cell counters. So is there anybody that actually looks with the human eye at cells anymore? I'm just putting it out there that if you had hundreds of billions of dollars like Big Pharma does, and you want to develop an incredible net to hook people up, the idea that there's all these diseases out there, and you turn on the nightly news and you see nothing but advertisements for pharmaceuticals. So this news is coming from big pharmaceutical companies. And what do they want to do? Well, and introduce you to the idea that there is some new disease and you need to go see the doctor. So you're out with your friends, and somehow Big Pharma is advertising in public places saying, see your doctor about this or that. Is it unfathomable to think that companies who are all about making hundreds of billions of dollars off of the population of Earth would go to these levels to make us believe lies? These vaccine things that are on the internet now, anti-vax, pro-vax. When we look at these things, we have to look back through the lens of history. What did people know when vaccines were invented? Well, smallpox vaccine, they used cowpox, apparently, according to the history. And Were they looking at microscopes? I don't know. I think it was basically they noticed that people who had had cowpox didn't get smallpox. So it was somebody's intuition that somehow if you have cowpox, which apparently doesn't make you very sick, it gave you a protection for smallpox, which is in some cases deadly. So they put two and two together, and they just went around and took someone with cowpox and put them in the proximity of others who didn't have it. So they all got it and developed immunity to smallpox. So that was their idea of how immunity could be given. But what was really going on there? Well, in those days, they didn't know about quantum physics. They thought everything was physical. They didn't have the double slit experiments. They didn't have the observer effect. All they knew in those days was physical reality, which was still being created by humans, by their aspects of consciousness that do creation. And it was totally unconscious. They didn't know that they were creating what they were creating. It was automatic. So, as they got little bits and pieces of information, their creative aspects incorporated that into its creation and continued the story based upon what people knew and what they believed to be true. So the whole of history is kind of a combination of what came before you arrived here on planet Earth, and what you believed when you were young, and what you continued to believe throughout your life. It is a long-term project to wake people up to the idea that they are creative beings, creating unconsciously, basically locked in by the society around you, which is run by some demonic beings, big pharmaceutical executives, for example, who are all about. Now, do they even know what they're doing? I'm not sure that they know. I'm really not sure that they know, because they're mostly business people about making profits. And unless they watch that Secret movie from, I don't know if that was like 20 years ago, and really understood what they were doing, it's probably unlikely that they knew. But if you're creating unconsciously, but you manage to create this enormous net where you convince everybody that they're physical, biological beings, and that there's diseases that are going to afflict you, and then you can get a huge marketing campaign to convince them all to go to the doctor, where the doctor has got its desk reference manual, and he can order up these tests, which Carrie Mullis says are highly suspect. You could find yourself with a diagnosis of being HIV positive and being stuck with a bill for, I don't know, $1,500 or more a month if you live in Western countries, and if you live in India, maybe it's only $4 a month. I mean, why are the drugs so much more expensive in Western countries than in some of these other countries? Somebody is playing big-time games with your mind. I'm Harry Weaver, and please continue watching. Maybe I'll come up with something new for you. Okay, so the next topic is aspect psychology, which basically means personalities, let's say. So everyone that you meet has got a different personality, and some people seem to have different personalities depending on what side of the bed they woke up on. So what aspect of you holds memories? What aspect of you is like your consciousness in the now moment? What aspect of you is subconscious? What aspect of you is unconscious? What aspect of you is the creator? What aspect of you is the observer? What aspect of you is the actor? What aspect of you is the audience? Some say that there is only one consciousness, and all of us are aspects of it. Where do you go to begin? Some people say that in order to influence the creative aspect of yourself, you have to go into, some people use guided meditations, or they try and get your brain to go to like a delta wavelength. Some people say, well, just make a recording and play it over and over while you sleep. Do these work? Is this the best way? I think it's not as easy as you think to create things out of thin air. I think that the aspects that control what actually happens in Earth reality don't give us any ability whatsoever to create. So let's call them aspects of ourselves that are perhaps different personalities, but they are the real creators. And we don't create anything here on Earth. It is basically these other aspects that do the creating. And why is that? For fun and games, or is it they're control freaks? Who are the ones that are the creators? I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be humans that are doing the creating. It seems to be done by beings other than yourself. How did they get the power? I don't know the history of it all. But why do I say we're not creators? Because nothing really seems to change around us. And, do these affirmations really work? Some people seem to get, sell a lot of books based upon these ideas, these new age ideas. But do they actually work? No, they don't work. So that's why I say that there's beings elsewhere that are creating our reality. And what is their end goal? Well, my end goal is to get rid of them, because I don't like someone else controlling my reality. How am I going to do that? I'm going to continue to quest for the answers. Are these the ancient gods that are doing it? Are we all connected and somehow? So many different people try to explain it, and does anyone come up with a really good explanation? No. No one has come up with an explanation that I can take off the shelf and use. And God knows I've tried. So, is there only like God that creates and no humans are co-creators? Well, it's possible. But it takes all the fun out of being you if you can't create anything on your own. You're always relying on some other God to create for you. And the idea of that God is somehow smarter than and knows what's better for you. If that's the case, then why is that God giving me these words to say, that's fucked? Because it just did, didn't it? So, whatever I'm saying is designed to stir the pot. I'm Harry Weaver.